I'd like to call the March 21st meeting of the Board of Education to order. The first item on our agenda is to review and approve the agenda. If you've had a chance to look at it, if I could get a motion to approve. Hazel? Second. Brendan? All those in favor? Unanimous? Okay, moving on to the approval of the minutes. In your packet, you have the March 7th minutes. If I could get a motion to approve the March 7th minutes? Sangeeta? Second? Tom? All those in favor? Any abstentions? Okay. Moving on to the comments from the public. To ensure the public's right to be heard, the board has set aside time during the meeting for public comments. 2 minutes are allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to each subject. Do I have anyone who would like to speak this evening? Go ahead. Can you come? Yes, please. Thank you.
I don't know if now is the appropriate time.
Yep.
I'm clearly a little too short. As I know you were speaking about a grant request, so is now the appropriate time, or do you prefer? Okay.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say that I know some of you have heard about the grant request today that we had approved at our PTC meeting. We heard from Jonathan Adams a few weeks ago at our PTC board meeting, who put forth a very compelling grant request for a polar heart rate monitor system. And the PTC board went ahead and approved that and was asking for your approval for that money. We did have a thoughtful discussion about the pros and cons about it. We did talk a lot about the privacy issues, and we did make sure to confirm that these monitors would adhere to the district's privacy issues. So as you discuss it, I just wanted to make sure you knew that we had thoughtfully debated these issues, and that we respectfully ask that you guys okay our expenditures on that. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to reports and recognition. The first item on our agenda is a presentation by Mr. Smith on the Visual and Performing Arts report. Dr. Lutzy, do you have anything?
Actually, I'll turn it over to Dr. Correnti to
Dr.
introduce.
Correnti. Okay.
Are we feeling good, Mr. Sneath?
We're not feeling too good. But I think we might have a fix in a minute. There's a flash drive on my desk. That's right. The good news is the videos that I need aren't until midway into the presentation, so hopefully we can.
So let me introduce you, Mr. Sneath. We'll get some time going here. First of all, it is a pleasure to introduce Mr. Alan Sneath, who is our Visual and Performing Arts Director, K through 12. For those of you that don't know Alan, Alan is really a behind-the-scenes person who attends every art show, every band, every orchestra, every play. Mr. Sneath is always there supporting the students and all the incredible work that they do within this district. As I sat with Mr. Sneath and tried to prepare for this evening, I was just in awe of all the opportunities that we offer to our students. And so tonight is really a way for us to showcase some of what we offer as far as our K through 8 curriculum, and then certainly moving into the electives that children have choice when they move into the high school. And so what we've done is we've divided it into 2 parts. So we're going to start with the music piece, and after we get through the music piece, we'll open it up to questions and answers, and then we're going to move into the visual arts and performing arts and open it up to questions at the end. So without further ado, I'm really pleased to introduce Mr. Sneath, who I think will entertain you this evening with his videos. He won't be singing or dancing or performing, but he'll be sharing some wonderful video clips of students.
Those days are long gone.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Thank you for giving me time tonight to present. I was thinking, as I was working on this program for tonight, that the last time I actually was here doing a presentation was in 2011. And in 2011, it was the first time that we actually started with our digital portfolio initiative. And on that evening, I had 25 to 29 staff here, and they shared what they were doing with the portfolios. Well, we're in the midst of getting ready for the end of the year. The music teachers are getting ready for the concerts. The art teachers are getting ready for the shows. So what I decided tonight, since it's just an update, is to kind of present what we've been doing, and then if you have further questions or want to hear anything else about the programs, I would bring the teachers back at that time so we can go a lot in depth. So that being said, I thought they could go back into the woods and stay under the sea. Also, because the last presentation was a while back, and we have so many new board members, I thought I'd really just kind of start off with where we are, who we are, and where we're going. So where we are right now, during the past maybe 9 months, since May of last year, the department's received quite a few accolades, and I just wanted to share some of them with you. If you look up here on the screen or on your PowerPoints, just locally, we have the Carriage Barn across the street that has a national photography show in January. We had 9 students' work selected for that, and we had our art teacher, Jean McDonough, photograph selected for that. We've had 11 Scholastic Awards, Gold Key, Honorable Mention, and Silver Key, and we actually have a National Scholastic Photograph Award, which I'll show you later on. This year we have 7 high school students that were accepted for the All-State Music Festival. Last spring we had our Sax Women's Chorus receive superior rating, first place middle school women's chorus, and first place overall chorus. And the high school concert band received a performance rating that was very high as well. In addition, our theater department's been just really making us proud with the Halo Award last year for Best Overall Musical. And we were very fortunate for our production last spring. The Apple Tree was given the Moss Hart Memorial Award, and that is for the New England Theater Conference. All of these awards and accolades they're adjudicated. So it really makes it significant that we have outside people coming into our programs, looking at our programs, analyzing our programs, and saying, hey, you guys are doing a good job. So this is where we are right now. We're very lucky in New Canaan to have some really wonderful partnerships with people in the community. As I mentioned before, we have the Carriage Barn. We had, just last week or 2 weeks ago, our 4th year of Through Our Eyes photograph, drawing, painting exhibition. We have the Fritz Eager Foundation for Art Education. Our middle school students, under the direction of Janet Rosen, has been giving quarterly recitals over at the New Canaan Inn. We have concerts at the library as well. Something that's coming on board, this is not the right slide. It wasn't, oh well. Something that's not on your slide, which I will talk about at another time, is we have the New Canaan Foundation for the Visual Performing Arts, the NCPS VPA Boosters, and they will be here probably sometime later this year to talk about how they're going to help us fundraise for the additional sound and lighting equipment in the auditorium. For some reason, it's not on this page, but there we are. So this just kind of shows you that we're very fortunate to have a community that really works with our teachers and our students, and it gives them the opportunity to really work in a professional environment and really get out their talents to the community. So who are we? The Visual Performing Arts Department. It's a pretty large department. We have 29 certified staff, 2 non-certified staff. We have 11.3 teachers in the elementary schools, middle schools, and high school, and we have 16.1 music teachers. I'm responsible for supervising these teachers. I evaluate them, and my goal is to give them the support that they need just to be effective in the classroom. In addition, we have 2 other people that support us from the background. We have Susan Kelly, our secretary, and Anthony Medaglia. And I have to tell you, if you don't know Anthony, you would think that with the Sax Auditorium being closed, his life would be easier. It's not. We are getting in so many performances through all of our different groups here at the high school, and trying to maintain that calendar and making sure everybody gets equal opportunity has been really trying. But I want to give kudos to these people that really have made sure that almost everything that we've tried to do has happened, and has happened in a really great way. With the teachers, I really have to tell you that our art teachers and our music teachers, what makes them very special to me is they are actually experts in the field. They are not just educators, they are artists and musicians. Our art teachers have exhibitions throughout the region, and our music teachers are performing in local orchestras, they're performing in gigs, and I really think that the work that they do professionally transcends to the work that they do with our kids. I hold them in very high regard, and I'm very proud to be working with them. So I talked a little bit about the teachers during the day. We have a robust co-curricular program. At the elementary school, I'm sorry, Can I get some water? I promise it's not all talking, you guys.
Yeah. We were talking to Alan
I was
before.
just wondering, I wasn't sure if it was the time I was supposed to go on stage, but.
Jill's been trying to do a flash mob for many years. Sorry. And I'll slow down a little bit. I'm just a little bit flustered with this technology not working. But the programs that we have with the co-curricular programs really give our students an additional boost. They get more experiences, a deeper experience. The challenges, we have almost 500 students every year that participate in these programs, starting with 56 from the challenges in art to approximately 125 with the 5th and 6th grade musical. Into the Woods had 41 actors, 17 crew, and 9 orchestra musicians just last week. All of these programs really just give our kids an experience that is just unbelievable. I don't know if anybody went to Into the Woods or even to The Lion King or to Little Mermaid coming up, but these are not your typical high school or middle school productions. The teachers that we have really work with the kids to give them what they need to be successful on that stage. So that being said, some of the programs or some of the people that help with our programs, as you can see on this next page with the co-curricular program staff, there are a ton of people that work with our kids. Everything from orchestra students to dancing to choreography, helping with the costumes, working with the music part, working with the dance part, working with the stage kids, working with the props. These teachers, for the most part, have been with us for many, many years. And I think the longevity of them working with our kids has really helped us to build a really strong, comprehensive program. And as you previously heard, an award-winning comprehensive program. And then these are just some of the people that work annually in the department. And last but not least, I really have to thank and just tell you a little bit about the parent volunteers. We have so many parents that help out with our programs, with the curricular program and co-curricular program. These are just a few examples of some of the things that our parents do, but we could not do this without their help. And if you could have been here last week, or if you're here next week, from behind the scenes to the parents designing the programs, helping with the ticketing, helping with the concessions, with the cast party, with the lobby decorations, with the memory book. We're very fortunate to have the parent support here in this district. So when I talk about the teachers and I talk about the programs, I really have to talk about their parents too, because we would not be able to do it without their help. And I know some of the people up there at the table have actually been behind the scenes helping out, and they can really attest that it does take a village to put on a production. All right. Okay. In addition to the volunteers, the Visual Performing Arts Department has a load of support from the PTC and the PFAs. They provide us the additional resources, materials, and support for our students, and do everything from small things in the rooms to helping us buy equipment, and even helping us out with buses to take our kids to festivals. So where are we with professional learning? And I know this is kind of mundane, but I think it's very important. I think I have just one of the stellar staffs in the state of Connecticut, and I'm very lucky because the district really provides us with the opportunity to work with them, and my goal is to give them all the professional support that they need or that they want to make sure that they are really strong with our kids. We spent the last 2 years looking at our curriculum. We've aligned the curriculum. We have taken and created assured experiences, making sure that the students at West get the same experience as at East and with South. And when you have multiple teachers going across doing that, it's very difficult, but we've taken the time, we've looked at the curriculum, and we've created these experiences, and we've turned many of them into benchmarks. So every student, for instance, in the kindergarten sings a song or they do a self-portrait. It goes all the way up from K to 8, where we have all of these things aligned now. We've had data teams where the teachers will get together and they will look at student work. I'll show you a photograph in a minute. That does work. But also they listen to each other's students sing. We videotape or audio tape all the children singing or playing the recorder. We will sit together and we will look at every single child. We will score them on a rubric. We will calibrate to make sure that we are all scoring them the same way. And then what we do is we figure out next steps for the students, no matter where they fall in the continuum. One of the best things that I've felt that we've done here in the past 2 years is we started videotaping our teachers working with the kids. It takes a lot of nudging, but what we've done is we have taped an art teacher and a music teacher, and then we go into a session with our other art and music teachers. We put the videotape on, we take the temple framework out, and we look and we identify. We identify the different strands for classroom environment. We look and we talk about planning. The most effective piece is looking at the third domain, which is responsive teaching in the differentiated classroom. We've targeted what the teachers are saying, what kind of feedback are they giving, what kind of questions are they asking the students. And this has been so effective because now we're at the point now where the teachers are actually going into each other's classrooms, they're watching each other teach, and they're giving each other feedback. The next step is, with the music teachers, to actually have them go into each other's classrooms and teach the students and kind of calibrate how they're doing as a department. Some of the other things that we've done with professional learning have just been curriculum-based. We've done painting, ceramics, iPad applications, and stop animation. So we're really trying to do the cutting edge and making sure that the teachers have every single bit of training that they have to be successful. I'm just going to talk about this really briefly. The national standards were approved in 2014. The Connecticut state was supposed to adopt them in the fall, in the upcoming months, but they pushed it off until the fall. What we're going to do over the summer, we're going to take the draft standards. We'll have a workshop in Fairfield University, and myself and a couple of other teachers are going to go to the workshop, and we're going to spend 4 days looking at the curriculum, looking at our curriculum, and kind of realigning things. It's pretty much similar from the old to the new, but we're going to make sure that we take it and we adapt it. We'll audit it and create, if we have to add more in-depth experiences, I don't think we will, but we'll align it, we'll create new assessments, and if we have to, we'll tear down some of the lessons and put UBD where we have more essential questions and enduring understandings in it. Excuse me. And then what we'll do is we'll come back in the fall, in the next 2 years, we'll make sure that we upgrade and audit everything that we do here with our curriculum. I can see your eyes glazing over, so I'm not going to talk about this too much. Because the work that we do with the kids is just very intense. But what we've done with the music curriculum is there are 3 artistic processes that we do with the kids: performing, creating, responding. And we have tied those to the national standards. For instance, singing along and with others, performing on instruments. Students will perform it, they will create it, they will improvise on it, and then they will respond to it. They will give each other feedback about what they heard. So you can take each one of these standards, and you will have an artistic process with that standard. So basically, by the time the student gets through the elementary level, they will have had all these different experiences and have had an opportunity to even get the historical and the cultural aspect into it as well. These are the music benchmarks that are framed around those standards. And this video is not going to work. So I'm going to take just one moment. Chip. Can I approach the board for a suggestion? Do you think that maybe I should just, I don't know how to go back and forth because the videos are much more educational than me talking, because what you see in the videos actually proves what I'm talking about. So what would be?
Is it easier to keep the video files open? They all have a copy of the presentation in front of them. So if you kept the video files open and then talked to the presentation, would that be acceptable?
Yeah, that's great.
And then we certainly can make sure that we get
But
the
I need it in
entire
that computer.
presentation on the district website for
And
those
it is
people that
already
are
on the
home.
website. It is on the website already.
Okay,
So
perfect.
people go right to the recent Board of Ed packet. You can get right to it.
So would that make it easier for you, Mr. Sneed? I'm sorry? So we're going to allow you to just keep your video files open, and then you can go back and forth with your presentation, and they have a hard copy of the presentation, so you don't need to display the presentation.
I always bring my computer and I always bring it back up.
Smart.
Yeah.
We wanted to bring children this evening, and certainly high school students, but since they had just finished Into the Woods, that wasn't really the best night to be bringing them out again. And then we had talked about possibly bringing a group over from Saks Middle School to perform from Little Mermaid, but unfortunately,
However, there's a licensing agreement which forbids us to broadcast any of the material from the show. However, as I was thinking the other day, what I think I might do moving forward, 2 different things. Number one is I think it'd be great, I don't want to overkill my program, but moving forward in the future, trying to bring 1 or 2 groups in throughout the year as it works with their curriculum and bringing them in and having them perform for you. So that's one thought. Then the other thought, too, is I've seen the tech tours. I think it'd be really effective to have a visual and performing arts tour. Not that everybody would have to go, but I think it'd be great just to have you come through and give you kind of a tour so you can actually see, because I'm not the best speaker, as you can tell, and I was telling Jill.
You're doing great.
No, seriously. You can talk all you can talk about these programs, but the real proof in the pudding is actually when you see the kids. The great thing about being in the arts is every single unit is basically, no, this is mine. Every single student is basically a performance task. And so at the end, I have work to show you. I can show you through the art pieces. I can show you through a performance at the violin students in the 3rd grade. I can show you a choir piece. And so speaking about that, that's what we're going to do right now. Oh, you're not connected now? This is where I wish I would have taken those tap classes. Wow. Just do one screen. I need to change the video. How about we do this? Let me load these videos onto that. You put them on there, and we'll do some Q&A while we're waiting.
Great.
Okay.
Yep. Put the videos onto the other machine.
Alan, do you want to just talk about maybe the 5 through 8 music curriculum and maybe hit the New Canaan High School course offerings, and then we can circle back to the videos? Would that make logical sense for you?
Yep.
Good.
So the 5 through 8 program at Saks with the music department basically is a follow-through of what happens at the elementary school. We have band, choir, orchestra, and we actually now have a music technology class. We call it Music Explorations. The students' experiences at the elementary level, by the time the students leave, they can actually read music on the treble clef. They can clap different rhythms from quarter note, 16th note, half note, different rests, and they're learning a little bit about music expression with dynamics, articulation, phrasing. So by the time they get to Saks, they can fall into one of the 4 strands. A lot of the students like to stay with the choir, but some of the students have taken strings, will stay in the string program. And then in addition, with the 5th grade students, they will enroll in band or music technology. And I have to tell you, the music technology just kind of morphed because we were doing world music a couple years ago, and it just wasn't speaking to the needs of the kids. And after seeing the success here at the high school with Anna Moody and her kids, I thought, you know what, we could really do this at the middle school level and serve as a feeder program coming up to the high school. We do have one VPA lab here, and we tried it there the first year, and we were in conflict with the art classes. So what we did is, when some of the computers here at the high school were being phased out, we just took them over to Saks and we put them into a room and made a music tech lab. The great thing about this is, every 2 or 3 years, we have a set of computers going off lease. And so now we can just move them across the street. So we're really being fiscally prudent about that. And the good news is, because it's music technology, the only software that they need is GarageBand. And they don't need a lot of the, the bells and whistles. So it serves really some wonderful needs for our kids. So those 4 classes at the middle school level are the music classes. In the art classes, it's just a continuation of what the students learn at the elementary level. They get deeper experiences in drawing and painting and ceramics in 3-dimension, and also now we do stuff with stop animation. So the video that you're going to see right now, it shows you an example of what we're doing in the 4th grade. By the time a student leaves the 4th grade, he or she can read music. So this example shows you how we work with our benchmarks with a 4th grade student. This particular student, because he has well-versed, oh, sorry, I'm just going to stop for 1 second. But what I'm hoping to do, this probably will work out better, to show you how a student can go from playing the recorder and then go through the band program at Saks and then end up through the high school program. So this is my turn that I can sit down and I can take a deep breath. Like I said, and we're doing this with every single elementary student, no matter what grade level it is. This is a benchmark, and it's given 3 times a year. So that's the first of the year, just with a few pitches. That was standard 2. So that's a 4th grade student at SAP. So here kind of shows you the breadth of the program, what happens from Saks all the way to the high school. High school experience. So hopefully that kind of showed you the experience of what a student goes through from the 4th grade level to the high school level. And if you think about the different experiences they have through the national standards through our curriculum, they're getting a very, very solid experience with their teachers. The last thing that was in the presentation for the music was I just want to talk about one initiative that we have coming along. Right now we have, at the high school, we have basically the same courses at the middle school with the band, the choir, the orchestra, the music technology. And there's different ensembles within that, but what we're looking forward to doing, we have an AP music theory course right now. One of the issues that we have is there's not really a feeder course into AP theory. The only theory that the students get are in their coursework with band, choir, and orchestra. And we're finding that they don't really have enough of the foundation to really get them moving through the course. So we're hoping over the summer and next year to starting to write curriculum for just a music theory course at the high school. It will not need extra FTE. We'll use the existing staff that we have, and it would be a one-semester course that we would run every other year. So we'll start writing the curriculum, and then we'll work with Jill, Dr. Correnti, and the CLC next year, and then hopefully get it on board as soon as possible. And that way, the students that are in AP, I think, will really just, have a full rounded experience. So I'm going to stop now and see if you have any questions based upon what you saw and what you heard and what you witnessed for the music department.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sneath. I'm always impressed by the work that the teachers in the visual and performing arts do for the kids in the district, and your passion for the program comes through in your presentation. So let me open it up to questions from the board, and see if anybody has anything. Hazel?
I was one of the ones, many in the audience, watching the Into the Woods, and what wonderful production that was, and so professional in the way it was handled and the variety. And I think that just to compliment everybody that's working in the music program, it seems to me it's not only a performance, but it's also an enjoyment. Not everybody that goes through the school will be a musician, but even the ones that are using the instruments that they're using and going as far as they can go will be able to appreciate how hard it is to reach the various steps where they're going. And I want to compliment you on your evaluation of the program. I think that for many years that's been something, not here, we've been developing for a long time, and you've done a terrific job on it, but it's really to be appreciated because you can see the growth, and the idea that the teachers are critiquing each other really expands all the education that can be happening in our programs. So thank you.
Sherry?
Okay, so I have compliments and a question. Just echoing what Hazel said, I think we have phenomenal VPA programs here, and I'm a proud high school band parent, and I've seen the progression through the years, and what I've always been so impressed with is I think we have phenomenal VPA teachers, the band teachers. They're so committed, giving up weekends to attend Western Regional or other events, even outside of the district. And then the creativity that's applied to each and every performance, and every concert is different from year to year. And I mean, including the video showing the consolidated high school band, choir, orchestra with Darth Vader conducting. I mean, the creativity and the kind of modernity to the performances are, I just think, amazing. So, I mean, congratulations and all that you do. The one question I have specific to the sax music program is, and I know that as we transitioned with the 6-day schedule at Sax, we had some challenges in fitting all the music classes in, specifically the ensemble portion. And I'm just wondering if you've made any progress in working through that. And I know it was kind of tabled for the 16-17 school year, and I'm just wondering if we've made any progress on thinking through that puzzle of how we might be able to fit more ensemble time into that schedule.
We're still on it. We've talked about certain scenarios that we could probably put into place, moving the advisory around, doing different things here and there, and trying to get in a second ensemble period throughout the 6-day rotation. I have to tell you, the Sax administration's been very supportive when it comes time to the concert session or concert season, giving us additional rehearsals during the school day. I have to tell you, one of the biggest hurdles that we faced this year was not having an auditorium to rehearse in. Because the boys and girls will practice over at Sax, but practicing in a room that's half this size, and then you come over here to a hall where all the sound goes up, it's been really hard for the kids to adjust. So that for that one reason, we're moving the band concert back over to Sax in May this year. So it's really kind of hard to tell. So the jury's still out, but we are working, and I'm brainstorming with the music teachers. We have a Google Drive where we're putting all kinds of questions in and ideas and scenarios. So, with the goal that we can get another rehearsal for the ensembles in next year during the 6-day rotation.
Great. No, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other question? Sangeeta?
I'll just comment because we've kind of been very involved with all the VPA programs, but I just wanted to point out again too, which I think it becomes clear that the kids learn a lot through the arts and the music and in those individual areas, but there's just so much more that they get out of this program, and it's so wonderful to see that we still have this in our district, and we're part of a district that really values this. Because I just a week ago I saw a commercial where they're advocating making a nonprofit foundation to bring music back to a lot of public schools, because it is an area where people tend to cut because money is tight. But aside from just, like I said, learning how to play a flute or instrument, these kids get so much self-esteem from doing something that's outside of just your academic area. I know when we're looking at the Sax Auditorium and what music means, I remember that Dr. Lutzy also brought up points of how this is really part of core curriculum, for students. It helps so much of their creative thinking and creativity. So when you look at math, your sciences, there's certain areas you can be creative, but this is another outlet. And knowing, I've got 3 boys in the school system, and they're all science, math kids, but yet they excelled in the arts. And it was a place because they could show their creative side. And it helps them, even with their math and science sides, to have that ability to extend out and create relationships. Because again, it's another place of belonging, and we talk about belonging in sports and stuff, and this is another place. And the relationships, I've been back there working with the students in the musicals, and the first opening night is just an amazing experience to see these kids get out. They're working so hard to give it their all, and the excitement, the nervous energy, and the production, and they come back, and you're just so happy to be a part of that. And you wish every child could experience that, because the belonging, the connections they create are amazing. So, and in the collaboration that occurs, that you said we have fabulous teachers, we have got fabulous administrators that help put those together, but the whole community, the parents, are just a big part of it. None of it could happen without that whole collaboration, all those pieces fitting together. So it's so exciting to be part of a district that puts that all together and have this for the kids. So again, I can't say enough about it. We've been involved in band, orchestra, musicals. I mean, it's just amazing. So kudos to everybody who's involved.
Anyone else? Okay. Oh, Penny.
Could you just give an idea about when we have the co-curriculars and we have the performances, how many students get involved in each one? Because I know it's a large number, not just the students you see on stage.
It varies. The Challenges in our program has 56 students. One page I shuffled. The 5th and 6th grade musical has approximately 125 on stage, 10 to 15 kids behind the stages working on the scenes and set construction. The 7th and 8th grade musical typically would have about 75 students. This year we're a little bit down to about 60 with a 12 stage crew. The high school musical had 41 actors, 9 orchestra members, and 17 crew. We don't know about the spring musicals yet, but roughly it's around 500 students a year through all of the co-curricular programs that participate. And those are very steady all the way through, year by year by year.
That's terrific. I mean, I think it just adds so much to the whole educational experience.
So I'd like to show you just a couple videos from the art program. Part of my presentation was going to be talking about, the students in art. We strive to help them find their artistic voice, how to tell a story through art. They start with self-portraits at the kindergarten level, and you can kind of see some of the benchmarks. By the time they get to the middle school, they're really starting to tell stories. And so what I wanted to do is to show you the effect of some professional development and the use of new technology to how students can tell a story. So this is a little video that just totally, I think, is amazing. This is stop animation. And I don't know if you know anything about stop animation, but the first thing that the kids have to do is they have to think about a concept, then they have to think about a story, then they have to write the story, then they have to storyboard the story, because stop animation is taking a photograph of every single movement that you want in the film. So watch this. It's amazing. This isn't what you think it is.
Parents, wake up! What is it? I need your help. Let's go. Get me out of here, please. Help. Don't worry, I got some help. We'll help you out. Oi, get away from my floor. Not I can help it. Let's get out of here. You can get me out of here now. We'll be out in a sec. Yee! Hooray, I'm free. Thanks, Mike. No problem.
Isn't the proof in the pudding here? Just amazing stuff. So this is what happens. This is a 7th grade project, and then here's where it moves to at the high school level. And just give me a thumbs up when you want me to turn it off, because it's going to go on forever. And the students actually created this video itself.
We interrupt this program to bring you this breaking news bulletin. Infamous bank robber John Davis has just pulled off another successful heist.
We have you surrounded. There's nowhere you can go.
What? What is she talking about? I can totally get a girlfriend. I just don't want one. How'd she even hear that? This is my inner monologue.
I love cats. Don't you? I have 9. How many do you have?
You just calculate the date of my conception?
Well, perhaps, but...
Puedo escribir los versos más tristes de esta noche. Escribir, por ejemplo, la noche está estrellada y gritan sobre esos astros tan lejos. El viento de la noche gira al cielo y canta.
So what's really unique about this, or not unique, it's just profound to me, is this all starts at the elementary level when the students are starting to do narrative stories, narrative drawings, where they will tell a story through their drawing, and they will put little things that happen in the story on their narrative drawing, and then Zach's, they do the stop animations, and then by the time they get to the high school, they're in the film program. Just to give a little commercial, we do have a film festival coming on in May, I believe it's May the 25th. It's the second film festival that we've had, and it's all produced by students. They create the flyers, they create the publicity, they solicit other local high schools. Last year we had 75 different pieces of student work. We hired adjudicators to look at the film, some of my friends from the city. Then we had an award ceremony where we actually did a kind of little mini Oscars here at the high school. And it's just wonderful to see our students working with students from other schools and sharing that experience. And that's what's great about the arts, to be honest with you. No matter if you're an artist or a band, choir, and orchestra on the stage, you're not alone. You're part of a big community. And I think what this does, it really shows the students that it's a great piece to be part of, a great family to be part of. So I do have one more thing I want to show you. If you look at slide number 42, and I'm not going to project it on the screen. These are just the high school art offerings. Earlier I talked about how at Saks we look at the drawing, the painting, the ceramics, the stop animation. At the high school, actually mine says 42. I don't know if yours says 42, but it looks...
It's the bottom of page 21.
21, thanks. These are just the different offerings that we have at the high school right now. The introductory level basically is a continuation of what happens at Saks. The intermediate level takes the students to just another higher level. Then we have the advanced courses, and then we're very fortunate to have 3 AP courses. AP drawing hasn't been in the offerings for a while. It was offered many years ago. We brought it back because we have a teacher now on board who's actually an AP scorer, that she actually goes out to Salt Lake City and scores portfolios and does a 2D. So having her on board and we have the personnel to teach it, it's just going to benefit our students even more. So those are the 3 AP courses that we have. And as far as on the horizons with the art department, right now the film club meets with Jen Sinsky. They meet once a week and they produce this film club. So in a couple years or maybe next year, I'll be coming to the board or talking to Bill Egan to maybe to see if we can possibly, get a stipend in place somehow or another just to help support that program. I do want to show you just one small clip, and these will all be on the website. But the course of studies, what we try to do to help promote the programs over at Saks is we had the high school students create a video, and they took it over to Saks and they showed all the art students this video. And it just kind of shows you, it's just a living document for the course of studies.
We do all the advanced photography classes here as well as the Photoshop design classes. So a student can come in and take intro classes, they can take intro to photo, they can take Photoshop design, then they can go on and take more advanced classes where they'll be doing a lot of post-production editing. And then we go as high up as doing AP college classes here. So if the student scores 3 or more, they'll be able to get college credit, and that's issued from the AP board.
Art's really special at New Canaan High School because you get to pick. There's tons of electives. It's not just walking into any art class. You get to pick on a specific subject that you want to take, and we certainly offer a lot of them. Digital photography, all of the filmmaking classes, and drawing.
One is AP drawing, and the other is printmaking. And we're hoping to get lots of students to sign up for those, so look out for them next year.
Drawing 1, Drawing 2, an advanced studio, 3 sections of intro to photo and jewelry right now. Painting, ceramics, and a sculpture class. The benefit of taking art as an elective is to, work with drawing tools and painting tools. It's a fun way to explore ideas and
just offer you a time to explore something that you wouldn't usually try.
The New Canaan High School Art Department is unique because we give students a chance to express their creative voice. In a day that's filled with very high-powered academics, this is an academic, but it touches that other part of the brain, the creative part of the brain.
So that kind of just shows you what we do here at the high school. And like I said, all of these will be up on the web soon, and so people can actually see what we do departmentally. Any questions about the art program? I just have one more thing I want to talk about.
I just want to say how impressed. I mean, I'm always amazed at how sophisticated the art that comes out of the high school, and obviously that's been built over time. So you know, it's, you go to those art shows in the hallway, or if you go over to the Carriage Barn, I mean, it's really impressive to see what these kids are capable of doing. So does anybody have any questions before we move on? Okay, why don't we move on?
Sure. I don't know what slide it is, but it's near the end of your presentation it's called Celebration of the Arts, just to fill you in on where we're going on May the 14th here at the high school at 7 o'clock p.m. We are going to have a awesome concert. We've been working and planning it for the last couple months. We're going to highlight students from the elementary choirs or a recorder group. We're going to have sax 6th and 8th grade fiddle group, sax flute ensemble, sax choir. I don't know if you know, but Monica Fitzgerald and Michael Messina are working on a web TV series with music, and so we're going to have them do a couple numbers. We're going to have presentations from the different musical performances. The string quartet, high school, middle school, and elementary teachers are going to play a version of Bohemian Rhapsody, and then we're going to recreate the high school all ensemble group with the Andrew Lloyd Webber medley that they did. We'll be here at the high school, and all the funds that we make will help go into getting equipment for the auditorium with the lighting and sound system, and also with the high school. I was talking with the staff at a meeting, and I felt like I was neglecting the art teachers, and I didn't want to give them any more work because they work so hard. But I said, is there anything organic that you guys do that you could help be part of the process? And they thought about it. Well, about a week ago, I was talking to Jen Sinsky, and she was doing an introductory to photography assignment where they were going out and they were shooting New Canaan's historical places. So she said, you know what would be great is let's do a coloring book. And so what they did is today, if you walk down the hall, you can see all the students' photographs on the wall, and the four of us went through and we kind of picked which ones that we're going to do, and they're going to take Photoshop, they're going to take the photographs and render it down to line drawings, and we're going to put it in a book, and that's going to be a fundraising experience. Then in addition, the photos, we are creating 2 packs of 10 that will be note cards. So then we have the art teachers involved in the process too. So hopefully you'll be here on May the 14th, and if you have any hidden talents, let me know. Jill? So I have to apologize. We tested everything out today, and it worked, and it's just like Murphy's Law.
You mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Ellen, you're demonstrating flexibility, adaptability, thinking on your feet, all 21st century skills that we talk about, and the importance of the arts. But I want to commend you and your department really for a couple of things. One, we talk often about our program and making sure that we offer something for every student across the grades. And I think that certainly your department in developing the opportunities for students in co-curricular activities, in the program at Saks and at the high school, all the way through, you've really kept the student interests in the front as you're doing it. And similarly, I think that one of the strongest hallmarks of the program is the opportunity for students to have a voice in what happens and what they're doing in their classes, what they're doing in the program. When we think about, you mentioned, which one did you mention? You mentioned the film festival, which is all student work. We also have the drama festival, which is all student run and produced and directed. I think about Ramstock, where students get together and they spend the night playing music and performing for one another and celebrating the arts. All of the art openings and the shows that you do, the senior art show that we have, it's all really focused on the students, student-driven, student work, student-directed, student-organized. And I think that really is a hallmark of the program and something that is such a great source of pride, I think, for you, for the department, for the students, for the whole community. I really want to commend you on that. It's much more difficult and messy to have the students sort of making those decisions and doing that work, but the end result, the product, is so excellent. And I think that what you've covered tonight and talked about a bit, and what we get to see and experience every year is really a testament to the power of letting go a little bit in order to take those great strides forward with the students at the lead. So I want to commend you and your department for that.
And just to make it clear, it's all because of our fabulous teachers. They make my life so easy because I can give them the reins and they can take the students to the top.
And the leadership style that allows them to run.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And just Alan used to perform, speak, introduce other things at Carnegie Hall.
Okay, here we go. Before I came here, I was a manager of school programs at Carnegie Hall. I wrote curriculum there. I trained teachers from all over the world. I did 8 shows a year on main stage and down in Zankel Hall. I hosted the programs. I played the recorder on the programs. We televised it to Alaska. We did internet too. Here I am.
But this made him nervous.
This made me nervous. But thanks, Brian.
Great, Alan. Can't resist.
I think
Wait,
Sangeeta had a question for
I
you.
just one, and I meant to, the broadcasting group, is that part of the VPA or is that a separate?
That's
where is that?
under Tech Ed.
That's under tech, okay, that's what I was looking for, because I know they also have a component of being in front and speaking and doing the news, so.
Yeah.
All right, great, thanks. And then one thing I just want to mention too, just since we're talking about film part of it, when we had the seniors come back, when they go to college, they come back and we have a meeting with them to see how things are going, or just the seniors from the internships. So many of them reported being so far ahead because they knew how to use some of these programs they're using in the filming to do final cuts. I know that a lot of the internships, the people are looking for our students to do a film or a piece on their business because they had that talent, which they got from these programs. So I mean, they've got skills they can use as soon as they get out of school.
That's why I use iMovie.
So I promise, Alan, it won't be 5 years before we see you again. I think everybody's impressed with.
Well, like I said, though, seriously, let's set up some VPA tours, and
I think that would be great.
It'd be great.
We'll make sure, we'll make it happen, so.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right, moving on is the budget update is next. Dr. Lutzy.
Yes, thank you. As we mentioned at our last meeting, I think it's helpful as we continue through our budget process to spend a couple of minutes at each meeting with an update. We had a meeting last week on Wednesday night with the town council, and wanted to share a couple of highlights from that discussion and see if there are any other follow-up discussion items. At the town council, there were a couple of questions and things that came up. One was they had asked about the retirements at this point, and you'll see we have a few more retirements on the consent agenda tonight. And I believe, Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but the retirements on the consent agenda bring us to 7. That was mentioned at the town council on Wednesday night. So we're at 7 retirements now with tonight's consent agenda, and we'll keep you posted as we keep going with that. There were some questions around safety and security in our schools. A question around, are we doing enough, which is a great question. The conversation around that focused on where we are today, what our plans are in the short term, and will there be other expenses in the long term. We've looked closely at the Campus Monitor program and the other safety initiatives we have, and feel that we are in a good place with our Campus Monitor system and the SROs and the others. But also did want the town council to know that safety is an ongoing effort, and while we're looking at finishing off our Phase 2 initiative relatively soon, there will likely be another capital request in the future for Phase 3 and 4 as we continue to review and make adjustments based on what best practices in the industry, what's happening in this sector with schools, because we do believe certainly that it's one of the most important things that we do. We try to match that up with a possible state grant if one's available, as we did with Phase 2. So there's a 20% matching grant with Phase 2 and the expenditures there. So we also keep an eye on the state and what's happening with that, so we can try to maximize our investment there. Third thing we talked about a bit was insurance. There were questions about the insurance budget going into next year in 2 ways, both the operating budget around the anticipated claims, and then questions about the reserves and the reserve number. As you recall from our last meeting, we were able to, by working closely with Joe and his group, were able to forecast a bit our anticipated claims for next year. So the savings is still intact for the $454,000 we had spoken about. Again, about $200,000 of that from the renegotiation with the teachers around their contract, and the other money, the $254,000, from an improvement of our claims. So that's still working well and working in our favor. And then also questions around the reserve number. And as you know, we had discussed, I think it was 2 years ago, the policy was put in place with the town around the reserves. And the current agreement is that the Board of Education in its internal services fund would hold 60% of the risk corridor, and the town from its general reserve would allocate 40% of the risk corridor. We would draw down the 60% that we have first if needed, and then if needed to go into the 40%, we would notify Rob and Dawn and the town, who would then have a process to go through and move the money from that fund into the internal services fund expeditiously as we're doing it. So that's the current agreement, and there was some conversation about the reserves and going forward. As you know, what's in the budget is the anticipated claims number, but the reserves number's not in the budget. It was, if you think back to the original superintendent's budget that was proposed, that number was significantly higher because it was including the money in the reserves and those pieces. But in meeting with the first selectman and his staff and the members of the town council, board of finance, conversation was that that money shouldn't be part of our operating budget, as we look over it year to year, because we're talking about reserves and how that's being held. And so that was moved out of the budget proposal because it's not an operating budget type number. It is on the reserve side. And Dr. Keating, if I've missed anything there, you're welcome to jump in. No? Okay.
You did great.
Well, I practice. But that's kind of just getting up to date. So just going forward, the next week not next week, Wednesday night, we have a town council meeting where we are scheduled to a final review of the budget and budget vote.
All right, Sherry.
So I attended the town council budget meeting last week, and it was a perfect summary, of course, but I just wanted to say that I was a little unsure last week why the discussion on the reserves was opened up at kind of a review of the operating budget. And I just want to state, my understanding is that there was a lot of effort put into writing that reserve policy 2 years ago, and that our policy is that the Board of Ed will carry 60% of the risk corridor, and that, I fully support fully funding our reserve policy, and I think maybe it's worthwhile to open that up for discussion just to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. But I was unclear as to why that seemed like there was some discussion being opened up on that. Our policy is what it is, and again, I support fully funding our reserve policy.
Hazel?
I share Sherry's concern and wanting to make sure to step forward and say, I think we all wish we had crystal balls. It would make it a lot easier, and then we would know exactly what we should do. And I think the closest thing we have to it is the good advice that we get from the people who come from the insurance company and tell us, using all sorts of statistics and experience and looking at our experience, analyzing it, formulas, et cetera. And then they let us know exactly what we're going to be doing and encourage us to do that. But we also have to make the decision of thinking about it. And I think that I would like to state also that I agree that we keep our funding the way it's been, because there are a couple reasons which we have raised at the meetings, and I think Deanna's done a nice job, Steve, Brian, all of our various people that are here have tried to make that understanding. But definitely, should we run into any problem and go over, we are personally responsible, according to state statute, for that, for going over the budget. So I don't think any of us want to have that happen. And I think personally it's something that we take as a very heavy responsibility to fulfill the obligations that we have for the teachers and their families, that they're depending upon us for their families' health services and to be able to take care of if there's an accident, illness, babies that are born prematurely, things that happen in life that are difficult to handle. And that's why we want it to be there when people need it. So I would say, also agreeing with Sherry, that I would like us to stay where we can be in a state where we can handle the things that we've said we would handle.
Sangeeta?
Yeah, no, I agree, because I wasn't at the last Wednesday, but I was there at the previous one, and I know that, Deanna, you spoke very eloquently about the fact that we are liable for this as a board, to cover these costs. And I know the town groups, the town council and the Board of Finance, are all working together and say they'd be there to cover it because it is a responsibility of the town. But timing gets to be a big issue. And sometimes, things kind of, for one reason or another, there's maybe a giant fiasco again, power's out, whatever, things get delayed, meetings and approvals and such. And so it's very important that we have that in place. And as, Sherry and Hazel said, the professionals are telling us this is the best practice. And we should go with our experts and take the advice and do what the best practice ways are out there. So I totally agree, too, that we should maintain our current policy of fully funding that corridor.
Penny?
I think when we came up with the policy with the town after much discussion to go with the 60-40 policy, that was a thoughtful decision. I know that this board relied on it at the time in passing the budget that we passed that year and in passing and developing the budgets for subsequent years. We also, I think either that year or prior year, we had gone on the insurance to a $300,000 individual stop loss, which, since insurance companies make money on insurance, is going to should save the town money over time. So it's a prudent place to be, but that does make for more volatility in our claims, making it even more important, I think, to fully fund the risk corridor. I would note that we've actually, as a board, also shrunk that risk corridor from 25% to 20%, which I think stands in favor of the town. And also, this is not really an area that the board can manage on a day-to-day or week-to-week or month-to-month basis. Our operating budget and the other items in that, we can look at. We can freeze the budget. We've had years where we've had to freeze the budget in December in order to make certain that we were going to come within it by year's end. But with the health insurance, we negotiate with the teachers every 3 years and with other unions as the contracts come up for the structure of the plan. And we can also do things in between and look at it as we've done as a board. But we don't have that type of day-to-day control. So I, for one, consider this a policy, the 60-40, and keeping it on the books and knowing it's there and knowing that there is personal liability and that reserve being there, relieving this Board of Education from the need to actually monitor all the expenses of the town of New Canaan. Not that there isn't trust, but I always think you have to trust but verify. With this policy, we just have to verify that reserve is there. So I think it has stood the town in very good stead, and I very strongly support its continuing.
Anyone else want to speak? I think it's been a long road on this policy, and it always seems to keep creeping up. But I think having that policy in place really gives the board a lot of comfort that the money's there for the teachers, and not that the town wouldn't come and backstop us if we needed them, but. To Penny's point, we shouldn't be required to monitor the town's liabilities. I mean, it's just we weren't elected to do that, and it shouldn't be our responsibility. And by changing that to not fully fund that corridor, it would put that onus on us to do that. I mean, if we were going to be good fiduciaries for our teachers, that we'd have to start doing that, and I don't think that that's what any of us signed up for when we took on this role. So, and also I think I still go back to Steve Rinaldi speaking to us about how the town of New Canaan's health insurance was the envy of every district in the state. I mean, all of us that were here for one of his last presentations commented on, we were the envy. We were well funded. Now, obviously, there was there needed to be some adjustments to how much it was sitting in the reserves, and that was done. But we got from being the envy of the state to really putting we could put ourselves in a much more volatile position by getting rid of the fully funding of it. I think having those reserves there allows us just to manage around the edges, and so every year you have a small amount to manage around, and yes, if claims go up, you're going to have to deal with that. But just manage around the edges, and you're not going to have a big expense for the taxpayers every year, or a big surprise. If you get rid of that cushion, you could have a year where you have a huge surprise because you don't have that cushion anymore. And I just don't think the taxpayers want that. And I know as a board member, I'm not sure I want that either. So it sounds like we're all. I don't know if anybody has any counter.
I'll just add. I really have nothing additional to say on top of what everyone else has said. I'm disappointed that we're actually even having this conversation, but I fully support funding the entire reserve.
Well, and I would like to quickly share, in the budget book itself, I think Joanne did a wonderful job sort of talking about reserves and helping people to understand a little bit if they'd like to see. And it's available on the website as well, and people can go to it and click in. And it does talk a little bit about reserves and benefit and how that can help on the operating side one way or another. I think it's a very clear explanation if anyone is unclear. I do also just want to take a quick moment to share that the process with the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and now the Town Council really has been an excellent process through this year. That it's been very cooperative, very communicative. We've had great dialogue, questions in advance, and everything else. And so I know the board's well aware of that, but since I'm talking, I have the mic and I'm able to, I do want to make let's say thanks and just make sure that everyone is aware that it's been a very positive process as we've gone through, and really feeling that each of the town bodies and the members therein are partners with us on behalf of the town for the work that we're doing. So I do want to make that point because it's been a good, but now, Wednesday night. Maybe I should have waited until next meeting to say that. No, but no, it's been very good, very positive and cooperative, and I think everyone on the board has a lot to be proud of.
That doesn't happen by accident. That happens with good people working hard and being responsive and being able to answer questions and get people comfortable. And the Board of Ed has done an excellent job. The staff, and.
I think it's been a great partnership.
Yeah, and I would like to add that because, I wasn't quite sure going in, knowing where we were and where we had to go, what it would be like this year. And I've got to say, I was very pleasantly surprised that it's been a great conversation, that everyone's, opened up. We've had extra meetings to talk just about insurance. Town council members have kind of looked into the area, Board of Finance, everyone's been working together and understand, and I think everyone kind of gets it, that this is an issue, this is something, it's just a matter of how we, work it out, and for them to understand, where we stand in terms of our liabilities and understanding, this is a volunteer position, and we want to make sure we do a good job, and I think they're getting that, and so I believe it is a really cooperative effort. It's not an easy subject. I know we've had a lot of lectures to try to understand it ourselves.
All right, moving on to this. Oh, sorry, sorry, Hazel, I'm sorry.
Also,
I'm sorry.
Sort of adding on to what you said, Deanna, also, a real appreciation for the staff and what they've done, because Dr. Keating and Dr. Lutzy have both added a clarity, I think, to the presentation of the budget that helped to communicate with people, and any information, no matter when it was asked for, how much it was, or detailed or anything, it has been presented, and I think the boards have shown great appreciation for the work that you put in to make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't want to. All right, now moving on to the statement of accounts. Dr. Keating.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the compliments, but I have to say we have a great administrative team here in New Canaan who put their fingerprints over everything that we do, so we're very appreciative of them as well. So we have the statement of accounts before you through the month of February, so we're 8 months into the year. Right now, we've encumbered or expended all but 6.65% of our $83.2 million budget, which is approximately $5.5 million. I'd like to point out that $3 million of the balance that's unencumbered comes from salaries and benefits, and those are from accounts that are really not conducive to encumbering. So those would be hourly employees, substitute teachers, co-curricular stipends, payroll taxes, those kind of things. And they make up about $3 million. the balance of $2.5 million in the non-salary accounts. $700,000 of that is for unallocated funds. That's actually come down since last month, and you'll see that through the transfers. And then the rest, again, are for energy bills and those kind of things that are not really conducive to encumbering on an ongoing basis or early on in the year. So I'd like to move on to the transfers, if that's okay. And then at the end of the meeting, I would like the board to move to approve the report, if you could, please, at the end. The transfer before you tonight is for $60,000, and that is to help offset the SACS remediation project. As you may recall, there's been, I think, a few presentations or informational updates to the board about the SACS remediation project. That started this past summer, and it had an initial budget of $740,000. And that budget was cobbled together from a variety of sources, our operating budget, reallocation within capital budgets, and the like. And so it was put together based on some estimates of what we knew, based on a review of Ty and Bond, who's our environmental consultants. And the original contracts that were awarded were about 68% of that budget, or 78% of that budget. We actually had a 22% budget, contingency budget going into that project of $164,000. So out of the 740, we felt that we had a fairly good contingency. But as any project of this nature would go, once you get into an auditorium space, as it would be, and start pulling apart the parts that are there that you're remediating and taking apart, new things came up on the project. And they included things like materials, hazardous materials behind panels, above the ceiling, around the ductwork, and those sort of things. And so the unexpected or the unanticipated expenditures were over $300,000. And so that wasn't really known until we actually started to get the bills in how much it would cost, because we were working on a time and materials basis. And so it really depended on how much time, what the materials were, and the disposal cost. And so that was really what, kind of ratcheted up that cost to close to $350,000. Once we had the numbers, we did go through the town boards and ask for their support and their funding, and they were very forthcoming. A lot of questions, but they were forthcoming. They did ask us if we could look at our own budget to see if there was any funding available, which we did. And we had one teacher that we had in the budget that we did not have to hire. So at that point, we felt comfortable in offering that lump sum of $60,000 to offset the costs. The town did come through with the final appropriation, and we've processed the invoices, I believe, last week. So this is the kind of wrapping the bow around our piece of it. There's no questions on that. I'll move down to the next one.
Why don't we see if there's questions?
Okay.
Okay, Snehita?
So just to get clear, so the extra 350 that was unforeseen in that, the town covered the whole 350, or is that being taken out of, I didn't quite understand where?
Well, the 350 was the overage, but we did have the contingency of, I believe it was 164. So
Okay.
it's the balance. We paid 60, they paid 125.
Okay.
And that really kind of clears out that account for everything we know right now.
And with that clearing, we still have 737 still in unallocated.
Correct, at this point.
Thank you.
Yes. So the second transfer out of the unallocated line item is for the facilities department, and that is $25,000. We continuously go through the air and things come up in the facilities area, be it a few $1,000s here or there that we have to take care of, boiler repairs, different things that are not anticipated. And so this is an additional $25,000 to cover existing commitments plus $10,000 worth of unknown that we might have as we move forward. Again, if something does come up between now and the end of the year, we would have to come back for additional appropriation. So this is just pretty much to take care of what we know and then a little beyond that. And then finally, I did want to point out to you that there are two accounts that you're going to see over budget in the report. One of them is from the KERMA audit that was done. Each year we have an audit on our payroll from the previous year because they base our premiums on our projected salary accounts, and then they come in and check them to see how close we were. So there was a balance due of $31,000. I didn't do the transfer yet because there's a possibility that within that grouping of objects, there may be funds left over in things like unemployment, the payroll taxes, those kind of things may have balances, so there's no need to go to the unallocated at this time for that account. The same holds true for the custodial overtime account. So I'm going to leave those where they are right now, knowing that I'm going to have to cover them within those accounts. If I can't, I will come back and ask for an allocation out of the unallocated account.
Question. Do you do much as far as projecting unallocated going forward? I mean, so you sort of suggested there'll probably be a little bit more funds available. How much of a science is there to that, and how much?
Well, the best accounts that you can really do is after the winter months are behind us and we have the heating bills come in.
Right.
So that's pretty easy there, and we can see if we have any funds available there. And with the salary accounts, as we get closer to the end of the year, the substitute teacher accounts will be able to, true up a little bit closer towards the end of the year. But starting at the end of March, I kind of go back in and take a really closer look again at those variable accounts that we have.
Great, thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I missed on the repairs and maintenance, the transfer in. What was that related to?
There's just really basically a number of smaller items we've had. We've had some water damage at the high school that we've had to repair, bringing in some pumps and different materials to fix the problems that we've had. So it's smaller items, but a number of them.
Okay.
And then is there B on page 2, Julie?
Yes, we talked about that. That would be the overtime in the facilities account.
Okay.
The same thing.
Okay, does anyone have any, well, why don't I get a motion to accept the statement of accounts for February of,
So move to approve the February 2016 statement of accounts.
may I have a second? Hazel?
Second.
Do we have any discussion on that motion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Okay.
Sorry, do we have to amend the agenda?
I just asked Dr. Lutzy that, too.
We had it on the agenda for reports and recognition. We didn't have it on as a motion.
I would think,
I know, that's.
I think we have to move to vote on it. I think we have to
Yeah.
move to amend the
Okay.
agenda to have it a vote.
I think you're right.
So I would move to amend the agenda, have a vote on accepting the financial.
We could do that, or the other option is to have the vote on the April 4th meeting, whichever you prefer. Can we amend the
Let's do-
agenda
can
now?
we- Yeah, why don't we go back and we'll just redo it? So can I have a motion to amend the agenda for this evening's meeting, the March 21st agenda, to include a motion to accept the statement of accounts? Sangeeta, may I have a second? Sherry, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so going back, may I have another motion? Yes, yeah.
Okay,
let's just
so
redo that.
I move to approve the February 2016 statement of accounts.
And I second.
And Hazel, second. All those in favor? Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Sangeeta.
Just one comment on this, which I know that this little note that they had on the back here about just the extra unallocated funds and the agreement right now with the Board of Finance and Town Council to use that to help offset the capital needs. I think that was a brilliant idea. Again, and a great way to show like the collaboration. I was thinking just again, keeping in mind, try to keep those tax dollars lower, for our taxpayers and stuff. And it's all the same money, and you can move it this way. It helps our schools. It helps, just the whole item of tax collection. So I think that was a really great way of moving forward.
Good. Okay. Penny?
So I just have a question. Was there a particular reason why we were accepting this statement of accounts, or is this going to be new going forward, or?
Yeah, well, so, why don't you?
I just wanted to understand the rationale as to why we were doing it.
The important part of this is to accept the report with the transfers between the account categories, between objects. And so that's the important piece of the whole acceptance.
Right.
Penny, go ahead.
Well, I'll just add a little bit to that, if you
Sure.
don't mind. In the past, the way that the budget was managed was we would do a statement of accounts, and if you recall, sometimes it would be different accounts would be running in the red, and then at the end of the year when we did the budget summary in the year, that's where all the transfers would happen at once. Joanne and I talked about it, said, in order to give the most accurate picture possible, why don't we, with each statement of accounts, show the transfers as we're making them sort of in between, and that's an opportunity for you to see those transfers. And then by approving the statement of accounts, it's the transfers that are therein. So instead of doing them all at once at the end in the summary, we're doing them along the way. It helps to manage the budget, I think, and helps to be more clear about sort of the decision-making along the way. So I just think it's helpful. It's just another level of detail. So that's the change that precipitated the need to accept.
Any other questions? Okay. Is it, okay. All right. Good. So I guess we are moving on to the action items. On our action items, we have a motion to approve a donation from the Saks PTC in the amount of $6,475 as a grant to purchase heart monitors. Dr. Correnti, do you want to just give us a little background?
So as the PTC presidents from Saks explained, Mr. Adams, who is one of our PE and health teachers at Saks Middle School, did some research on the heart monitors, had lengthy conversations with the athletic director, Jay Egan, who oversees all of the PE and health department and the teachers, as well as Mr. Salvestrini, who is our director of digital learning, to make sure that anytime we purchase software that it's all within FERPA compliance. So he had done some research and did a nice presentation to the PTC about the heart monitors. Both Mr. Egan and Mr. Adams shared with me that basically these would be used with 7th and 8th graders as part of their fitness unit. Every spring they participate in a fitness unit which culminates in every child running the mile. And what the tool is, it allows the children to have a teacher help to monitor their heart rate and to try to get them into that 140 to 190 beats per minute. So the monitors, the children would put the monitors on before PE class as they're getting ready. The monitors are synced with the teacher's iPad. And as the children begin to exercise, the teacher is able to monitor those heart rates, and the teacher's able to give feedback to the student. So it really gives the student an idea of what it's like to be in that heart range. So you would imagine it's more individual feedback, and the teacher would walk over to the student, comment that, you seem to be in your heart range right now. Let's try to keep up this exercise pace for our 15 minutes. They want children to experience what it's like. There's a lot of new research out there about maintaining that heart monitor rate. It's also a way to say, I noticed that you hit your heart range, but then you drop down. So let's talk a little bit about setting some personal goals. And we also feel that it might be a better way for kids to get better prepared to run the mile as they do at the end of the unit. So it's really about setting personal goals and giving children individual feedback. They've always done this in the past, but it's been more the children monitoring their own pulse rate and the students reporting it. So this would be a little bit more scientific, would give the teacher some opportunities to have individual conversations with kids and talk about ways to personally set goals for themselves.
Okay, let me, before we have any discussions, I need to get a motion on the floor before we have a discussion on the topic. I just wanted to get, just so everybody understood what we'd be talking about. Could I have a motion to approve the donation from the SAC PTC in the amount of $6,475?
I'll make a motion to approve the $6,475 from the Saks PTC.
Okay,
for Heart
great.
Rate.
And may I have a second? Sherry. Okay, now we may discuss. May I have, is there anyone who have comments or questions?
Yeah, I just had a question. So the tool itself, is it a wristband, or is it, I mean, like, what is it that's been put
It's a
on the kids?
band that the kids would put on. So certainly that was a question that I think came up from the PTC, according to Jonathan, that they would be purchasing individual bands for each of the kids that they would just be able to keep in their locker. So they wouldn't be trading out bands, so that they would have their own band, and then I guess the device just fits within the band. So they would come in, they would be given the device as they're getting ready for PE class. They'd put the device on. They'd then keep the band in their locker, and then they'd be returning that heart monitor device.
So after they're done with the year or whatever of doing it, then the heart
I think it's the
monitor-
unit, right? So
and
right.
get a
So
new
they would
band.
be returning the little heart monitor unit. It's the band that they would keep. So it's just a little elastic band, similar to like a Fitbit, where you put a little device within the Fitbit, and your band comes on and off, and then you charge your little device that goes within it. So this would just be a device that goes in the band. That's the device that all the kids utilize, but each child would have their own personalized band that they would keep in their locker.
But it goes around their chest.
It does go around their chest.
Does 7th and 8th graders change that they put this on, or just, I know that.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maria? Oh, sorry.
I have a question. I know my sister-in-law's children do this in her school across the line, and my question is, when they're trying to hit that target heart rate, they're now looking at the monitor as opposed to just trying to get an idea of where they are. And one problem I've seen with it, it's sort of a two-sided problem. Less fit students will have a harder time reaching that heart rate and or maintaining it. And, I'm wondering about the impact on the student themselves as they're trying to meet this, especially in middle school, are very self-conscious about physical ability, and possibly if they can't meet that rate, how they compare to others. The other side of the coin is more fit students. In fact, my own daughter, her roommate had this in high school, and they had a hard time meeting the rate because they were so efficient. So you have the extremes of the students maybe not understanding their own body because they're going for the green. I think it is actually like a color they're trying to get in some zone. So how will that be addressed?
I think that my understanding from Mr. Adams and Mr. Egan is that it would be done individualized. It won't be posted up on any smart board that anybody's seeing what an individual student would be doing, similar to how a teacher would give feedback in the area of writing. They go over and they have a personal conversation with the student. So I think it would be a personal conversation, giving them feedback on how they're doing and how they're exercising and the goal. My guess is that it would be a larger unit of goal setting and how do we help to increase. So you're right, they may not meet that target heart rate for whatever reason, but it's how do we help to make increments and goal setting to get there.
So how is this different from what we already do? I know they are taking their own rate. Like how will this change the lesson?
I think that it would probably give the students a more accurate reading. It would certainly help the health teachers and PE teachers to monitor it as well, because they'll be seeing where the heart rates are coming in on their iPad. So that it allows them to have more individual conversations with students. Certainly somebody could take their pulse and not necessarily calculate it correctly, could misrepresent their pulse. This would give them an actual reading and allow them to have those individualized conversations with students and help them to set targets for their future with exercise.
I don't want to
Brendan?
Penny.
Yeah.
Is there historical information as well, so a student can see how they've done over the course?
I believe that there would be a historical. At this point, it would be very new to us, but my understanding is that they'll be able to track it over time, and the data would be held, in privacy with the teacher or with the student.
Right. Okay.
Penny?
I was just saying, since it is medical data about individual students, could you explain where the data resides and how it's protected?
Yes, so we do have the FERPA agreement that basically all the data is owned by the school district. And if we were ever terminate their service, then they would be giving us our data back. So, and literally the only data that the teachers would be entering at this time would just be the student's name and then their heart monitor rate. It's only beats per minute. That's the only thing that's recorded.
Sherry?
I
just wanted to add, this isn't a question about the product. I mean, I find this a very interesting conversation, but just so that all of the Board of Ed members understand that all of our PTCs, they put a lot of effort into their fundraising, and they have a very extensive grant process. I know for SAC specifically, I previously served on the SAC's executive board and have been through this grant process several times. There's a multi-page request form that a teacher has to fill out for a grant request. There's extensive review and discussion and committee meetings and interviews, and I just want to assure the board that the SACS BTC, and I think Katie alluded to this, that they do have a very extensive process. They take the allocation of their fundraising dollars very seriously. It's reported out to the PTC general membership and voted upon by the general membership, and then it comes, if it's over $5,000, comes up to the board level for approval. So I just want everyone to kind of have that background and context as we dive into the detail of this $6,000 donation. So.
I just want to add to that because I was also on the SACS board, and the gym teacher actually came to us like at least 3 years ago asking for this product. So I'm sure it's been very well thought out, and again, like what Sherry just said, I mean, if the PFA has looked or the PTC has looked into this so extensively, I fully support this for the kids.
Sangeeta?
I just have a question. So just for ongoing, because we want to look to see, there's going to be, so they use it for this, we order enough for the 7th grade class this year and enough for the 8th grade class. Next year, we'll just need to order new bands, and what kind of expense are we looking for that?
I would just imagine it's just the bands, because the monitors are returned, so they may only order 25 monitors, and then it would be used by that gym class during that block of time. And then the bands would be the replacement.
Just because I know whenever we take donations, we don't want anything that's reoccurring, so I just kind of know what we're committing ourselves to. I don't know how much.
I think it would be a very minor instructional supply cost.
So could you give us some indication of what other districts in our DRG might be doing around this technology, and are they utilizing it, or are we an outlier? Or?
Well, it's interesting because in the February edition of the Harvard Education Letter, there was a whole article written about what the characteristics of a new PE class looks like. And actually, a PE teacher from Staples High School in Westport was written up for some of the innovations that they're using, and really talking about how PE is aiming for fitness and fun and fairness, and it's really moving into that exercise zone. It's trying not to have children waiting and sitting there and thinking that it's my turn to dribble down or it's my turn to play the game. It's trying to create maybe 3 games where all the children are actively involved and they're all exercising for a good 20 to 30 minutes of that PE class, and within that 15-minute time period, that heart is in that target heart range. So they talk a lot about the focus on wellness rather than athletics, about building teamwork and confidence and encouraging self-expression. Choices so that students can find activities that they enjoy outside of school, recreational activities. Even the skills are taught opposed as physical training versus as a sports prep. They talk about the more use of technology like these kind of heart rate monitors, a lot of setting of personal goals and relating it to fitness, and certainly music and fast-paced energy. So it's just an article that was written up recently, so I'm sure that was part of some of his proposal and when he was looking into this.
Hazel?
Just a logistical question. Excuse me. How many monitors will this purchase? It's 40. I mean, approximately. I don't have to know the exact one. Is it for 3 classes, 2 classes, 5 classes?
Is it on there for 40?
And the backup question is, what's the breakage as far as redoing a little bit of building on what Sangeeta's asking? What's the cost that might be additional on top of this? Just to know if it's inconsequent. If it's not much, it doesn't matter. But
Well, like all things, I'm sure there's some type of warranty that's been built into all of the equipment. And I'm just trying to read their purchase order. I mean, it talks about 10 kits, and then they have the price for, it's just a matter of what comes within those 10 kits. But I would imagine if they're talking about having multiple gym classes being able to utilize them, I'm thinking that they're going to be looking to, maybe 50 monitors, something so that you could have 2 PE classes going on at a time. But they have, once again, it's hard for me to see how many kits are actually, how many come within the kit. I'm assuming that they're buying enough for multiple PE classes.
Well, I would imagine this may be a bit like the rest of technology. Whatever you begin with, it becomes cheaper within 2 or 3 years, so. Or obsolete kits.
Maria?
Jill, you said that they'll be syncing to the teacher's iPad. Is there a software? And, I understand there is a server somewhere. So is there a software fee? Is there a maintenance fee that happens recurring every year?
That was not my understanding. So I think it's it's probably an app that's part of the iPad that they're probably syncing to, is my guess. It talks about the web service, but it doesn't talk about a yearly fee. So it must be a one-step deal that they're doing.
Because I'm wondering if it's attached to a student's identity. Theoretically, at the end of the year, you start over, I guess, if you're going to reuse. So I'm just wondering, and it does mention that, I don't know if it's a mistake in the FERPA affidavit, but FERPA was changed, so now there's a little more latitude in who has access to student data because as long as it's for educational or research purposes. But it does say in this that PII goes to Finland, to a server in Finland, so I don't know, if we could get more, I think we'd need more information about what that exactly means.
As I understand it, and I'm always
Reading
happy to
it, it's right
get more information. As I understand it, that's in the security provisions. They talk about the data will be collected in databases that are protected by firewalls, passwords, other technical means. I think physically the server that Polar uses is in Finland, and so that's why it's specifically saying it's in Finland, and that's why it's set, because about being transmitted across borders. But they do go through in the security provisions and affirm that it's protected, all of the personally identifiable information will be protected, and that the only access to that information is through Polar employees if they're doing something on behalf of the school district, as we do that. So it would be, according to this contract, on our behalf. The part about ownership of the data, as you saw in here also, if we were to stop with Polar at any time, they would destroy the data that they have and then send us something verifying that they had destroyed that data. So I think we can find out more as to why, but I would imagine it probably is a business decision that's where their servers physically are located that store the data for whatever. And looking at these, not very often, but from time to time, you do find that the servers are all over the world. And sometimes they're in South America, sometimes they're in different parts of Europe, and it's probably really driven by a business decision around what the most economical and reliable piece was for the company. But we can drill into that if you think that's something we'd like to be helpful to learn more
I think
about.
it's interesting. I mean, I think it's a great idea, and I really, I really do appreciate the Saks PTC and all the parents donating funds for something like this. We have an enviable parent body that really is involved, and I know a lot of people like the idea. My daughter even has one of these, but it's a self-contained unit. The data doesn't go anywhere. So I am concerned about the data. My other question was, I was looking at the manual for the Polar Fitbit, and there is a liability. There are kind of cautions about students undertaking something like this. So in what ways will we be notifying, parents about that?
I would assume that the PE teachers could, send out an email that would explain that they're beginning their annual spring fitness unit, and they could introduce a new device that they'd be using with the students. They will still, go through the fitness unit And certainly if somebody, I think, was opposed to using the device, they would just not use the device, and they would continue to move forward with doing the regular pulse check. And, it's part of our curriculum. The fitness unit has been part of the curriculum.
Right.
The mile run is part of the curriculum. So that is what we expect children to engage in. But we certainly would send out notification to parents about the new unit and the devices and how they would support the
Right,
unit of
because
study.
the strength, I think, is the real benefit is that feedback opportunity, right? For the teacher to be able to monitor in real time as the student is doing whatever activity in order to provide adjusting feedback, supportive, different pieces. So, if somebody were to, for whatever reason, decide not to participate, then that would be a family decision, of course.
Can I just ask one
Jen?
thing? So, but the only thing that's that the data is like the heartbeat
Yes.
per minute?
There's no
That's it.
EKG. It's just how many beats
So
per minute.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't really understand the concern. However, I mean, because they're going to be doing the exact same thing they're doing now. I mean, they're just monitoring their heartbeat. Like they're doing the runs.
Also setting goals, so.
True,
they're-
but you do that anyway. Like my daughter is in 5th grade, and they go through this long, of course she loves it, like first period when she has to go for her run. So I hear all about that in the outfits. But anyway, but then they're going to have something to actually monitor their heart rate, and they're learning. I mean, again, advancing our curriculum into technology that we have today. The girls all have Fitbits. They're doing their walks. They're doing their Fitbit challenges. Deanna's got I guess I just don't. I totally
That isn't self-contained.
appreciate your concern. I guess I'm just not there. So, I don't know.
I think it's going to be much more accurate, I think. Yeah, the whole thing. I wanted to add something that it's not related to this particular device, but it was something that I noticed on our tech tour when I was at Saks in one of the math teachers' classes, and seeing the kids working on a math problem. Each of them were working on it with the teacher having the iPad and being able to see what each individual student was doing and commenting in real time on what that student was doing. And the amount of personalized educational value in that technology to me was outstanding. Because a teacher couldn't walk around a room like that. And a gym teacher can't walk around a track or a field like that. And to be able to, maybe move out of Johnny finished the mile run first, and, Billy finished last, and and instead saying, look, you were able to maintain your heartbeat in this range, and yes, some kids are going to get into their range if they're less fit quicker. They won't be able to do it. They won't be able to do it as long, but they'll probably get into the heart range quickly. And yes, more fit kids, it will take longer, but then isn't that a good thing? They work harder to get into. I don't know that I see a downside to it. I understand. I think there are data issues with all this technology, and we have to be careful. But I think we're also in a district that understands those data issues and is very mindful. Parents have voiced that concern, and we have made every effort to make sure that all the data that we collect on students is retained within the district, and nobody has access to that outside of the district, except for if they're working for us to do something with it. So, but that's a personal opinion. Penny.
So I'm just wondering, I don't know that much about FERPA. It sounds like a wonderful program. I just, it looks like this is the FERPA affidavit. It's sort of the standard agreement with the company. Have we run this by our lawyers? Just to see what they say about it, if there are any amendments to this, the standard FERPA agreement that they would suggest that we make?
They helped us develop the standard FERPA agreement that you see in front of you.
So we ran it by Shipman?
We did when we developed the template. So we developed a template with Shipman probably about a year ago. And so we use that template when we work with companies as our guide, and we'll send that over to them, and they'll work through. And Polar was very accommodating with all of it. Sometimes, some of these agreements, is, if you've looked at them, can be 8, 10, 14 pages long, and that's much more sort of an iterative process back and forth around the language. But with this, we provided the template, and they plugged in the information that they had, and we went forward from there. So yes, Penny Shipman has looked at the template that we use as our guide.
So, I mean, I haven't studied it, but we did get one letter from a parent that says third-party vendors can have access to the data for educational purposes. And I'm just wondering what the extent of that access, if that's correct, and if that's something that we wanted to.
Right. So
is there a third-party vendor other than Polar that could have access to
in the
this
affidavit,
information?
it says that, let's see, personally identifiable information derived from student information provided to Polar may be disclosed only to Polar employees who have a legitimate educational interest in maintaining, organizing, or analyzing the data for uses authorized in this subscription. Okay.
So the only vendor then is Polar?
Right. It also goes on to say personally identifiable information from the district maintained by Polar shall not be further disclosed by Polar except as allowed by FERPA. The school district is responsible for any notices to parents, et cetera. Yes.
Okay, wait, just a second. Sangeeta and then.
Well, it's not to that particular, but I was just, wanted to follow up with what you were saying, Deanna, that, as we look towards personal learning and using technology, and this is a very technological, technology is in every area of these kids' world. And it helps to bring them, even on that same tour, kids were telling me when they were using this tool to figure out 2/3 of an acre and 1/8 acre is planted with tomatoes and the other one's corn, and try to figure out the things. One of the boys had said, this makes it fun. They really were enjoying it. And I think the same thing comes with physical education, that sometimes, running around a track is just not that enjoyable, particularly when you're just keep running and get that heart rate up. But, bringing in some technology that, that they are embraced and to bring in, I think it is the way that, things are going. So, it's good that we asked all the questions to see, what's it about and how it's bringing in, because it's new for us. But I think it is a place that we should be going to as we get into innovative styles. And I'm glad to see our physical education teachers are wanting to be innovative with some of the programs and really trying to bring the kids and engage them in a meaningful way of really understanding why they're running around their track.
That's true. Okay, Maria.
Since we're on the data topic, I do want to add, I know it is fun. My sixth grader got a hold of my Fitbit and was, running around the house for 3 days. But then she was done with that. She met her goals, I guess. But fit for life. But I did want to say what has happened with the third party. This just happened in California. Someone filed a lawsuit with a school district and was able to get the data to substantiate their claim about something to do with something else, special ed services. So that's one of these situations. Say someone had a problem and filed a lawsuit, they could get all the data. That's what happened in California. They got all the students' data, not just the child that was involved in the lawsuit. So, in that way, I think we have to also teach our kids how to be responsible with their personal data. So, maybe this is something we have to think about. If we do this, I actually brought my daughters, so you can see, I brought toys. I bought props. So this is her watch that transmits using this, but it doesn't go anywhere else. So, maybe that's somehow a middle ground where the data is not stored in Finland. I really do, the line's right there. It says PII will be transmitted across international borders. So why, maybe it's an oversight, I don't know. I'm kind of wondering if we could table this for,
Brendan?
Yeah, I guess as I think about data, there's a lot of data, and then there's the data that we're talking about here, which is, basically your heart rate and your name. And I just don't view that data as particularly problematic if it were to get out there. If you had your address, your parents' names, social security number, that sort of stuff, which is frankly shared on a daily basis by all of us, I think that's a lot more problematic. So I don't view this data as particularly sensitive at the end of the day. it's data that we have to be careful with. And I think this is, a good conversation, but for the benefits that I think are provided for, for the education of these students and physical education, I think this makes sense.
Anyone else? Penny?
Just say that maybe a subject for a future board meeting would be to educate us more at some point on privacy and data and where it's held and what we should all be thinking about as a board member. I tend to agree with Brendan on this, and I certainly appreciate the discussion and the generosity of the SACS parents.
And I will just add to that, just for what it's worth, at a meeting this morning with the PTC and PFA presidents, they were talking a bit about programming for next year and technology and privacy and some of those other pieces around some education for parents, bringing a speaker, doing some work around that was top on the list. So I think this is an important area that everyone has a lot to learn about.
That's a good point. I think that's a great idea, Penny. I think, we'll work to get that on the agenda sometime in the next year, I think, in 6 months.
Sure.
Hazel?
Just a logistic question about this, so that we can think about it and make sure that if we can make a decision. Is it possible that the names can be numbers and that only the teacher would have the code as to who was number 455? That might make it easier, something like that.
We can certainly look into it, contact them. Let's see. But there was something about coding in here. I'm just looking for.
Yeah, it looks like the school district has flexibility as far as what they enter in. When you look at number 4, it says that certainly at the time of license registration, no PI2 data is required. And then during the use of the services, the school district will be able to store. So it does look like the school district has the flexibility.
So we can follow up with them. There is also the statement of access is restricted to school districts designated personnel only.
Right.
And that Polar only have access for troubleshooting and for training the school district if needed. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Great suggestion. I think it's a great suggestion. Maria?
Will the results or their student success factor into their grades in any way?
That was not my understanding. My understanding was really to get it to be utilized as an instructional tool to teach children what it feels like to be within that heart range. That's their target heart range. That was my understanding when I spoke with Mr. Adams and Mr. Egan today. So I think that, it's a new device that they would be utilizing with students, and certainly whenever you're utilizing a new device, you're always taking caution with it. You want to make sure that you're using it the appropriate way, not to take away from the instruction, and teaching kids what it means to be physically fit and to stay active and healthy.
Anyone else?
Is there any way, I guess this is for Deanna, we're sort of approving two things, to accept the money and to do the program. Can you split the motion in half somehow?
Well, I think that the money was specifically
It has
allocated
to be
by the
earmarked for that.
PTC for a specific purpose, so we can't segregate it. It would have to just go back, and they'd have to come back with something different. So I
Right,
think
you couldn't take the
we
money
can't.
without the project.
No, we have to have the specific project. So I think, do we have any other questions or comments? Sangeeta?
Just one quick little logistical thing too. Do these things have to be taken home and washed periodically if they're sweating? I mean, it's just, does that school doing it, or the kids will take it and clean it every once
I think
in
the
a while?
band is theirs.
Okay,
So
they
if they'd
can
like
do
to
it,
take
okay.
the band home, like they take home any of their gym
Clothes and wash it.
clothes and wash it,
Okay.
that would be up to them. But I think that was what the PTC felt, like the band is theirs. They have the band, it's for their personal use. At the end of the year, they can walk home with the band. They can't walk home with the heart monitor device, but They can leave the band, or they can throw the band away, or
And-
they could save it for next year if they're a seventh grader.
I do want to share, I think that, I mean, it's a good example of how carefully vetted this was by the PTC, because the initial proposal, I don't think, had a band for each individual student, and they looked at it, they thought about it, and said, we want to spend more money, but have every student have his or her own band for this so that they're not sharing these things. So I do think that's just a small example of just sort of how carefully they vet all of this, and they think about all of the little details as well, you know, as things go through. So I want to commend them for that. It's important.
Any other questions?
So I would
Penny?
vote to approve this tonight, but I would also like to ask, for an update as to exactly how the program's going to be implemented and what information is going to be included. And if, I have no idea if Hazel's suggestion is workable or not, but so that, just to know that we're continuing to monitor and see what happens.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think, I think we all sort of nodded our head in agreement that if there's a way to, use codes and, numbers instead of, names, that would be an easy fix, and, we'll get maybe an update in Friday Notes or something about that.
In advance of implementation.
Well, I don't
Not sure
know.
of their
If,
timing.
yeah, no, it wouldn't be in advance of
But I
implementation.
certainly will try to turn it around as quickly as possible. Yeah, I just don't know the timing at the middle school when they're moving into this unit.
Well, I think that Mr. Adams was hoping to have everything for April 8th, because I think that they wanted to be able to train the PE teachers on that professional learning day on how to utilize the devices and the best way to integrate it with their fitness unit. So my understanding is that he put a lot of thought into the timing of purchasing of these devices so that it's not just something that arrives and you put into the PE teacher's hands. There's some thought about the trainer coming in, showing them how to utilize the device, and then teaching the PE teachers of, more importantly, how does it fit within our curriculum and how will they utilize it when they're in those PE classes. And to have all the PE teachers together to brainstorm and talk about it and to work through that, I think is really important. So that would be the timing here, is to hopefully have the professional learning on April 8th with the PE teachers, so that when they come back from the April vacation and they need to move into the fitness unit, they'll be able to do so. That was my understanding.
Sangeeta?
I was just thinking too, like, even if, the numbers is an issue for whatever reason, even if they just put the first name, I mean, they're not looking to save this data for anything, so, I mean, everyone uses the first name, no one cares if Steve got 165 and Mary got 110, it doesn't mean anything, so I think, as you're saying, getting data that's relevant, you don't have to have last names attached. If you don't have last names attached, it doesn't mean much.
I don't know, if this says that student name, birth date, height, weight, and school district assigned number will be on at the school site, but at some point it's connected to the,
Well, we're able to store that data,
yeah.
but we're not.
You don't have to.
Right, exactly. We've chosen not to store anything, but at this point, it was the name and the number, right?
Well,
So
and
it just,
I think this is probably good practice for the new bill that is coming out, that at some point, there is a lot of transparency that has to be made known to families, especially, as we evolve into the new, everything's digital, electronic, we all have a digital footprint. At some point, someone will like to consolidate it. But maybe as part of the April 8th PD, you could take a look at what's coming down the line as far as the types of information that districts will have to ensure they tell parents about, as connected to any new web-based programs or online services. Just a
as
suggestion.
recently as today, we met for 90 minutes looking at some documentation and, again, COPA and some of the other regulations. So it is an ongoing discussion that we have. And you're right, the landscape does change as well. I know there's a bill currently in Connecticut, and California has passed something, and there's other things happening. So we try to certainly keep up with everything as things shift and change and go. But yeah, it's definitely something we keep up with.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's appreciated.
All right, well, I think we've had a pretty extensive conversation, and I think at this point, we should go ahead and So we've had the motion and the second. So at this point, I think we should just call for a vote. All those in favor? No.
No.
Not now. So at the, could I see a show of hands? All those in favor of approving a donation from the Saks PTC in the amount of $6,475 as a grant to purchase heart rate monitors? All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, that motion approves. Thank you to the Saks parents for their generosity, and we'll get an update from the district on how that's going. All right, you'll see before you the consent agenda. Could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Penny? Second? Sangeeta? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Announcements and future meetings. Dr. Lutzy.
So I'm looking at our agenda, and I guess I need to apologize. Generally, it is usually the comments from the public.
Oh, sorry, that's
Okay.
it. Oh, I
But
have that
mine-
after.
Yeah, so do I. So I'm happy to
Do you want, no, let's do it in the order that I
do it
want to
in
have.
the order,
I
so
don't
we
want a
have to amend
motion.
the agenda
You can
twice, 'cause
comment later.
Lisa
but-
will start getting mad at us for changing the agenda, so I'll very quickly. As the second day of spring, I think we saw what spring is all about in New England today. Began the day with a few inches of snow and ended the day with beautiful sunshine. So hopefully that's winter's last gasp. So at our next meeting in April, we will be setting the graduation date. We're allowed to do that in April. We're not allowed to do it before April. And then if anything were to change, if we had other freaks, snowstorms or something that changed the end of school year, we're still able to keep the date we set once we get into April. Let's see. We have also coming up, we'll have a TEPL update at our next Board of Education meeting. You heard Alan talking a little bit about encouraging his teachers to go into different classrooms, and he even mentioned Domain 3, which is responsive teaching in the differentiated classroom. That comes directly from TEPL, the teacher evaluation and professional learning plan that we use. And that's exactly where we want everyone to be, right? Where they're using the language and it's really becoming a part of our professional practice. So Dr. Krenti and Ms. Wolick will go through TEPL for us, give us an update on that. By that point, the town council will have concluded the budget process, so we'll be able to share information around the final operating budget for 16-17. And I think that we're all set. Thank you.
Okay, so this is our second opportunity for comments from the public. And to ensure the public's right to be heard, the board has set aside time for the public comment. 2 minutes are allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes per topic. Do I have anyone who'd like to speak?
Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Duggar. I just wanted to address the privacy concerns with the heart rate monitor app. Thank you for your brilliant suggestion. I apologize, I don't know your name, but that's exactly a vendor-neutral and general solution to privacy, which is to assign a randomized identifier to students' data and only put that identifier into vendor's third-party software. And it happens to coincide with my current professional activities, so I'm more than happy to volunteer time to help Mr. PE or whatever tech guys set this up in a spreadsheet, write some scripts for them, whatever they need to facilitate it. It's very easy to do, and it's a general solution for any third-party software.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So now, do I have a motion to adjourn? Hazel. Second, Brendan. All those in favor? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.